Royal Canadian Air Force Lieutenant Gen. Pierre StAmand, the Deputy Commander of the North American Aerospace Defense Command Norad, answers a question during a panel discussion at the Canadian Academic Symposium held in Colorado Springs, Colorado on March 30, 2016. Photo. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has somewhat suggested he might be open to rethinking Canadian involvement in the U.S. ballistic missile defense system. Although he hasn't at this point reversed the decision of previous Canadian governments not to become involved in the U.S. ground-based missile defense system, news media outlets point out he opened the door, albeit a little, when he acknowledged his government will look at how to deal the situation with North Korea's missiles. This comes after the appearance of Norad Deputy Commander, Canadian Lieutenant Gen. Pierre StAmand, who told parliamentarians that U.S. policy is not to defend Canada with its missile shield in the event of an attack. Not surprisingly, StAmand's statement made headlines. Missile defense supporters such as retired Lieutenant Gen. George MacDonald and former diplomat Colin Robertson were in the media making their pitch about Canada joining the U.S. missile defense system. There were also apocalyptic claims about nuclear-tipped North Korean missiles destroying Toronto and Vancouver as American generals coldly looked on and did nothing, despite the threat of radiation and other after-effects, economic, etc. to their own country. But U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis seemed surprised by StAmand's statement, and he cast doubt on the claim. Mattis, a former Marine general, pointed out that allies defend each other. That is the way it works. He noted Canada and the U.S. have a history of military cooperation, including during the Second World War and the Korean War. He also made mention specifically of Canadian military involvement in the Afghan War, alongside U.S. forces. This is a relationship that has been many decades in the making, Mattis told journalists. It doesn't start with us. It will not end with us. Mattis also pointed out that Canada was there to support the U.S. during and in the aftermath of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. They were there when we got attacked, he said. We stand by them. We share the North American Air Defense Command. We are even embedded in joint coalition commands like that. But even after Mattis explained the basics of how mutual defense works, Norad was still insisting Canada would not be protected in the event of a missile attack. The Norad Deputy Commander's comments will speak for themselves. The ground-based mid-course defense element of the ballistic missile defense system is deployed to protect and defend the United States, U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Jamie Davis told U.S. News and World Report. Canada is not a partner in the GMD program. But Liberal Senator Colin Canny, a former chairman of the Defense Committee, noted the following in a letter he has sent to various newspapers on September 14. Lieutenant Gen. Pierre StAmand, Canada's deputy commander at the North American Aerospace Defense Command Norad, told parliamentarians that his American colleagues have been whispering in his ear that the United States policy is not to defend Canada in case of a missile attack. Perhaps the good general can lend his colleagues at Norad headquarters in Colorado Springs a copy of Article 5 of the NATO agreement, which deals with collective defense. It states the parties agree that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against them all, and consequently they agree that, if such an armed attack occurs, each of them, in exercise of the right of individual or collective self-defense recognized by Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations, will assist the party or parties so attacked by taking forthwith, individually and in concert with the other parties, such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force, to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. The general should suggest that his colleagues reread this chapter. And, while doing so, he may wish to remind them that the last time it was invoked was on September 11, 2001.